This is going to be the last part of the series, the Dark Hall. I'm just going to show you a couple of updated things that I've done and show you a final render or two. I just wanted to tell you that I've worked on the color of the bricks again. I've gone for a more typical kind of color here, and I've added this kind of dusty damage to it right here in the shader editor. What I had before was this stuff, all right, and we went through this, but I changed the colors here. I've added ambient occlusion like this in case I never showed you that. I think I had these two mix RGBs. I've added another mix RGB along the line that leads to the base color. I've added the ambient occlusion node, and now I'm doing this in Eevee, by the way. I've added a color ramp, and I've adjusted these a little bit. And there's my mix RGB with multiply and my FAC up around 3/4 for that. The extra damage that I've done was done by creating a second principal BSDF using a mix shader to mix them together. Okay, the second one is in the bottom shader slot, and adding a noise texture here very simply. I think it comes in at scale of 5, and I've upped the detail a bit in the roughness and the distortion. And I've got my texture coordinate mapping node on UV. I'm coming to a color ramp. I really had to play around with this to get it to work. So if you were to try this, you would want to do that. All right, and coming out of the color, okay, into a bump here, down to the normal, and I brought the color from the color ramp into the base color, or those cracks or damage. I'll show you that again, and also into the FAC. So if you wanted to try this, you could just take a screenshot of this and then mess around with it, and that would have given me these sort of stain-like things. They are indented a little bit, and I did a similar thing. Let's see if I can bring everything back here on the tile floor. Let's just focus on that. You can see all of this. Well, once again, I mean, right on this spot here, it probably looks like the same image, just note a different color. It's the same idea. I've changed the scale of the noise texture and a few of these things, and changed the bump a little bit, and the color, but that's basically it. Of course, the roughness is all the way up on this, and that has given me this tile floor. And I think I narrowed the mortar with a little bit. All right, so all of this stuff would have been the same as before on the tiles. However, I added ambient occlusion with that color ramp just for where it meets the wall. There will be some shadow, and we're going to have a look at that. So those were the main updates to this. Now you'll note also that there are a number of lights in here. All right, these are just point lights. I put those two there to kind of simulate what was in the original reference, which I'll be going back to. And then a little bit more light here and there. This is an area light. It's quite small, and another light here and there just to light up ever so slightly the other objects in the room, around the bed frames, around the chairs / door, and sort of into this hallway. And there's nothing special about these. They're just at slightly different brightnesses sometimes, and that's that. The one thing you might want to look into, especially if you have glass in your scene, is I'll select a light right up here, specular. If you turn that, it's usually at 1, let's say. Turn it down to 0. So if you're finding, like, you've got metal or shiny things, and you've got a reflection of your light, and you think you don't like that effect, you want the light, but you don't want to see the light in the reflection. If you just turn that to 0, you can get rid of that. So I've done that on all these, just not that there's anything overly reflective here, but so I've got that. And I also have 2 images as planes in here, because I said I was going to put some blood in. So I'm going to show you this in a second. And the shader editor just looks like this. When you bring in an image as planes, the image itself, and we'll look at this in a moment, with the alpha attached to this, if it's a PNG, and that's what you want to be using, so it's transparent background. Now this works in Eevee. I'm not certain that it works exactly the same in Cycles, So you'd have to experiment with that. And then I put a color ramp in here so I could play around with the colors to get it to match my scene a little bit more, and then adjust anything you might need here. I put clear coat on, the sort of shiny blood, whatever. Let's just come over here and I'll show you. Now I did throw on a metal texture. This is just an image texture. It had what did it have? It had the diffuse, and it had the I guess the normal, and it had roughness or something. This is something I found on the internet. You can go to any texture site and get a metal. You're barely going to see this at all because of the darkness of the render, but I just wanted something on there, but I could have left it the way it was. And I put a little bit of a fabric on the chair, I think. There, I guess I put it on this one, and I didn't yet put it on that one. And that was just a fabric that I found on the internet. I was just getting tired of doing everything in Blender, and I figured they're off to the side, and you're not even going to see the texture anyhow, as you'll see in a moment. But there you can see the damage again on my bricks and the color of my bricks. It does not match the reference, but that's okay. And here you can see the blood splatters. All right, so I went like this: Shift A, image as planes, and I selected a blood texture, and I used shrink wrap to make it sort of stick to the wall and to the floor. And they're not the exact same shade of red, and I could play with that more, but. So there is the scene. So let's just have a look at a couple of things. Oh, in terms of where to get these images, one spot that I found that had free, and I think I used this once, freeicons.png.com. And if you just search for blood splatter or PNG, this is one site where they had a few different ones that I've grabbed. There's not a lot, but a few of them worked. So you can find PNGs of these for free. So that's what I used. So in terms of then looking at this was the original. And as I worked on this, the more I look at this, the more I appreciate how excellent it is. We talked about the scale, whatever, but I mean, again, I don't know where this exactly was taken from. In terms of is it an in-game screenshot or whatever, but and the leaks here might be a little bit in your face or whatever, but it's still really good. And and so that's the original image, probably from an in-game lighting. Whereas mine, now I have a couple of different versions of it. Here you can see a blood stain here and a blood stain there. You can see my brick texture and a little bit of that damage-like stuff I mentioned, or it looks like dust almost. You can barely see the door frame, although you can see a little bit of light. There's nothing in behind there, so I just left it. But you can see some darkness in the corner and here and up here, and that's the ambient occlusion node that I threw in. You can barely see the bed, the door, and the chairs. You'll see it better, I think, in another image, but that was a little bit by design as I tried to sort of emulate this. Things are a little brighter over here. There's a bit of light, ambient light lighting that up, and there's another room back there, but whatever, we're just doing this for fun, right? So that's mine there. You can see that I lit up over here just a little bit more my dusty, dirty floor. Again, the bloodstains don't match up perfectly, but whatever, we're just having fun. And let's see, this is just a different version of this with a different HDRI that's quite yellowish orange, but I wanted to go for a saturated kind of a look. You can see the door a little bit better, almost like there's some texture on there. You can't tell that this one's textured and this one isn't. That's not, there's 100%. But there they are. This is in Eevee with a little bit of post-processing, as I showed you last time. This is just a little bit more extreme. I think if I really had my wits about me and I was in love with continuing to work on this, I would do some more work on the ceiling. But that's what it is. That's the dark hallway, and it's if I let me close that up. I don't need that anymore. Let's say I take that one and I take this one and we put them side by side. You will no doubt see differences and differences in the camera angle as well, but I've created my own version of it, and I did it, basically all in Blender, or at least I didn't go into Substance Painter at all this time, despite really wanting to. I can't say for sure if some of these textures aren't hand drawn in any way, but this for sure is not going to be done in any one 3D program. These bricks probably are done in Designer or some other texturing software. The leaks may, it's hard to tell. But anyways, that was my goal, to do this all in Blender, with the exception of some image maps that I broke down and decided to use, but still doing it all in Blender, pretty much. All right, so that is the end of the Dark Hall series. Thank you very much for coming by and watching this, commenting, liking. I appreciate that very much. And I'm going to move on probably to some individual objects for those of you that want to do some more modeling and some texturing, like as I mentioned in a recent vlog, I now have, I'm a little bit behind the times, the computer game The Last of Us, the first one, and I'm playing through that and taking some screenshots and just, being able to finally marvel at the textures, because I've got a big screen here that I can look at it. And I see the wood furniture and the old dirty chairs, flipped over and stuff, and I want to do some stuff from that, and so I think we will, and of course I'll do big scenes coming up soon, another series and all that. So yeah, that's it's going to be lots of fun in the new year. So thank you very much for coming by, and we will see you again soon. Take care.